Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode will be going over something that's going to be completely different. I'm going to be going through a few forum posts. These are ones that people have put up, and I'm going to kind of be going against them almost, going against the ideas and what they're saying. I might agree with some of them, but ultimately these are some things that I want to shed a different sort of perspective on for the people who've done the forum posts, or just, for argument's sake, seeing what people think of the game at the moment and where they think it should be taken and stuff like that. But as always, we'll look to get into the weekly stuff first. So, Lishkanoth and Zakari Elders are your world bosses for the week. They are located in Thaldraszus, yes, as well as Zaralek Caverns. Arena Skirmishes are your bonus event for the week, so you get more honour from doing this event, or these arenas. And Deepwing Dunk is your brawl for the week. This one's very simple. You pick up an orb and you dunk it into the opposition's base, essentially. Storming, Raging, and Tyrannical are your mythic affixes for this week. Storming is some little whirlwinds, you just simply move away from them. And Raging, you want to soothe or kill them very fast, or your tank needs to kite them, as when they get below 30% health, they deal 100% increased damage. And Tyrannical, the bosses and the mobs that they spawn will have more health and do a bit more damage. We're going to be looking at the Scythe of Elune. This is one that I went over a few weeks ago, essentially, but we're going to be looking at the lore of it. We're not going to get into the real gritty stuff of the Scythe, because there is actually a lot to it. We're going to be going over some of the basic things, essentially. So the Scythe of Elune is a mystical artifact created from Goldrin's Fang, sorry. Goldrin being sort of a god, essentially. And the Staff of Elune, Fang. Yeah, and the Staff of Elune. So the Staff of Elune is just a little staff, and then the Fang is obviously the bit that makes it a scythe, essentially. It is described as an ancient weapon, a twisted and gnarled branch of wood covered with runes that could be older than even the Kaldorei. The Kaldorei are the Night Elves. Those who are not careful enough can easily be overwhelmed by Goldrin's spirit, which infuses the scythe. Kind of makes sense. He's a very powerful being, so you can kind of see that happening. Prior to the origin of the Worgen of Azeroth, what this means is essentially it created the Worgen. The Worgen are, obviously we know them as a playable race, but before that they were literal monsters that we killed in Duskwood, Silverpine Forest, and other places. They were kind of just feral monsters that you killed for loot, but they were people, they were like humanoids just like everyone else. And what you can do with the scythe is actually interact with feral Worgen and turn them back into a humanoid, which is a really cool like small feature that people don't know potentially about using the Scythe of Elune. You actually need it equipped, and you need to go up to these feral Worgen specifically and click them, but you can turn them back into a humanoid, which is cool. The Scythe is said to possess untold lunar power for the druid with balance enough to keep control. Scythe of Elune is an artifact used by balanced druids in Legion. Okay, so obviously it makes sense considering it's got a lot of arcane power. You would give it to the balanced druids, the ones who can wield solar and lunar sort of powers. The whole backstory to this is basically it kind of created the Worgen in a sense, and the fact that it was not hinted at all that you could go randomly up to these Worgen in Duskwood and use the scythe on them to turn them back is really cool, and it's something that the players found out later on in the game when they had access to this really cool artifact weapon. It's got a lot of lore behind it. It's obviously a very powerful artifact, but stuff like this in Legion after the events in Gilneas, essentially, The scythe was returned to Darnassus and later approved by Tyrande to be delivered to the druids of the Dream Grove. So this is kind of like in between Warlords of Draenor and Legion. It's like, okay, yes, they can have this staff in order to defeat the Burning Legion. They travelled with the scythe to Duskwood to further their studies of the Worgen and meet with the new Archdruid of the Grove, which was us, the player. On orders from Tyrande, they brought it to the Twilight Grove in Duskwood. You know what that is? The big central part of Duskwood where a world boss was back in the day. And when the druid arrived via the Emerald Dream, the scythe was essentially stolen by Dark Riders, and you had to go and retrieve it from Karazhan to get it back. That's how you became in possession of the Scythe of Elune. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more like about the Worgen and how it came to give them this curse and stuff like that. But there is just so much about it, and I can't get into it. I need to get into the main sort of bulk of this podcast, which is what we'll do now. But definitely worth looking up the Scythe of Elune lore. It's very cool. All Druid lore is very cool, in my opinion. So, let's get into this. Now, I've picked a few forum posts. They're very recent. I picked a few forum posts that are relatively sized. They all go over a lot of things, very different things. But we'll start off with kind of a PvP one, essentially. So I'm going to be reading over the forum posts and stopping and starting and, discussing points about it and going against points, stuff like that. You'll pick it up as I go along, essentially. So this is them on the forums. The map rotation has to go. There is zero benefit in it, and it's just annoying. Oh no, it's Mugenbala / Robodrome week. Log on your wizards. Dev team need to stop sitting on balance issues and watching it play out. You see the outlaw / unholy / holy pala are unplayable. Hot fix. Making players wait months to be able to play their spec is criminal in an MMORPG where people care about their main characters. Okay, first things at first. They have been doing so many balance changes. Some obviously have been getting a little more love than others, like these classes, but you can't say that they're not doing balance changes constantly, because they constantly are. But I want to put this into perspective. This was a forum post from 22 hours ago, as from when I'm reading it. So it's a very recent post, and they're doing like PTR stuff, so 10.1.5. They're constantly balancing that. I know that about an hour ago they came out with a new patch notes for that, balancing mages, paladins, and more stuff, I believe, augmentation of ogres. But the map rotation, I don't think is a bad thing. And this guy says, oh no, it's Mugenbala / Robodrome week. Okay, it's not just them two maps. Okay, it's Blade's Edge Arena, it's Nagrand Arena, it's something else that's probably quite relatively sized. It wouldn't be like Imperium Domain or anything. There's two big maps, but you have to take into account that most of the maps are neutral based, and there's always going to be like a small map in there, like Blade's Edge or something, and then there's a hook point. What is another small map? Oh my god, I can't remember. I can't remember all of the maps all of a sudden. I feel like Nagrand, obviously it's a very neutral map, but I feel like it's quite small. But, it very much depends on the classes that you play. I think that the map rotation is fine. And it kind of, gives a new dynamic each week. Kind of like, oh, okay, I can play this build. So, if I play on Blade's Edge Arena on my Boomy, I might play a AoE build, whereas I'm playing a single target build most of the time. And that's just because, of the map itself, it's nothing else. So, the map rotation, I don't think it's too bad. I think they've done a very good job in terms of having, big maps, medium maps, and small maps spread out in each week. And there's always that chance that you might just not roll any good maps. You might get Mugenbala 10 times out of 10. It would be very rare to, and the chances of that are very, very high. Percent-wise, the chances of it are probably 0.001 or something like that. But it can happen. And vice versa, it can be a really small map. So, it's one of them things, and I think that it gives the game a little bit more of a fresh look every week, essentially. Stop messing with MMR. If nothing else, it confuses 99% of people that play the game. Okay, MMR is your matchmaking rating. Essentially, if you're a rank 1 player, and you're playing your MMR, your hidden matchmaking rating is 2,500 to 3k. The average player, their MMR is probably around, I think, 1k to 1.2k, something like that. I have no idea, but we're going to go with that. If you were to, you have to play around with MMR a little bit in order to get, inflation, up and down, etc., because your MMR is not a static number. It's always fluctuating. When you win a game, you go up in matchmaking rating. If you lose a game, you go down. There's not much you can do in terms of stop messing with it, because it's an ongoing thing. Otherwise, you just wouldn't have people climbing. Everyone would be in the exact same place that they were however many years ago, nearly 20 years ago. Actually, it's more like 15 probably when Arena rating was released. More like 15 years ago when they first started playing Arena. And that's just not how it works. It's a living sort of, binary code in there that's saying, oh, this person's gone up in rating, so they play someone who's a little bit tougher, and, that kind of thing. So I don't know what they're suggesting here. The blue post explaining the 3 phases of the season: gearing, ults, pushing, is something that should not be played into. The arena season should be viable queue sessions for everyone the entire time. It literally is. I can log on to my ults right now at the very start of a season and enjoy playing my ults. That's what I can do. Now, during Shadowlands, I maybe had one ult to play and I took a couple months to gear that ult because of how the gearing system worked. But now, in Dragonflight, the gearing system's really easy. I can log onto my ult at the very start of the season and just play it for fun. Yes, it's kind of what they want. It's a very broad idea of what they want, because at the end of the season, you're looking to push your rating to the highest that you possibly can for the, rewards. Because there's no point going, pushing 2,400 to get your rank 1 title at the very start of the season. Say you get, rank 1 is 2,500. We'll just say it. You get 2,500. You get 2,530 or something. You sit there at the very start of the season. You've done it. You're rank 1. You go back at the end of the season and suddenly you're rank 4,000. Not in rank 1 range, we'll say. And you're like, what the hell? I was rank 1. Well, that's firstly because MMR goes up, your, matchmaking rating goes up, it all fluctuates, people get higher, people push at the end of the season because it's more accurate of where you will be and what rewards you will get, rather than being at the start of the season. That kind of thing. It makes no sense to push at the start of the season. It makes sense to push at the end of the season. It's kind of just what people should do, essentially. It's a very good foundation for what people should do in arenas, but you can by all means log onto an ult and immediately jump into arena games. You don't have to go through this process. It's very flexible. And no, the answer is not just pump everyone to 3k rating, just keep it static. Static is boring. Static is boring as fuck. Percent-based rewards would make this a lot easier. I kind of get what you're saying, and it already is percent-based, I'm pretty sure. Rank 1 is percent-based. If you have 3,000 people, let's take 3,000 people, for example, in a bracket, yeah? You have each one of these players goes from 1 rating all the way up to 3,000. The person who's 3,000 rating is rank 1. This person who's 2,999 is rank 2. And this is because you have a pool of people who are like, it gives accurate results. It is the top 1%, the top 2%, all the way down. So if you're actually looking at that from a point of view, I think it will be something like the top 30 players will be rank 1. I'm trying to do the maths quickly. I think it's about something like that. So you do have a percent based. And the thing is, the pool is massive. So it's probably 200 people or something are rank 1s, that kind of thing. Which they still deserve to be rank 1. They do absolutely amazing. They play their hearts out. They're very, very good players. So it already is percent based, I'm pretty sure. They're not just going, oh yeah, you're a decent rank, but you didn't quite do better than this person. Nah, you're not getting it. It's not that. It is percent based already. Hence why if you go on check PvP, you can literally see if people get rank 1, it will say achieved in the 0.01% of top players, that kind of thing. Stuff like precog makes the game more complicated balancing wise for no reason. Stop adding stuff with that kind of impact. Shadowflame armor patch is the perfect example of an embellishment. It's cool, but it doesn't really do anything. Okay, I don't know what Shadowflame armor patch is. Precog, on the other hand, I thought it was going to break the game. And I can kind of understand why it's implemented. I play a caster, so I'm going to try and be as non-biased as I can here, because I love having precog on my boomy. And the thing is, if you're being trained by a melee, you juke one kick, that's fine. But then you've got the second kick to juke, and it's okay, well, I've got to get through that. And by the time that you get through that, the first kick's back up, so it's you get no downtime. So if you juke the first kick, you get 4 seconds of just invulnerability. You're not being CC'd. It's on them because they missed the kick. It's, a skill issue, essentially. But, the thing is, with precog, I thought that it was going to break the game. It's kind of made casters a bit more level in terms of if you're being trained by 3 melee, 3 I say as in if you've got a melee cleave and then a fist weaver who also has a kick now, then it's really tough to cast a chaos bolt if you're a warlock or something, that kind of thing, or a cyclone if you're a druid. Whereas you get rewarded for juking a kick, essentially. If you did that in the past, you didn't get precog, but you still had to get through 2 more kicks. So, alternatively, it's good, but it isn't at the same time. I can kind of understand what he means by this. But yeah, I have no idea about the Shadowflame armor. I think adding these kind of things to the game, though, is something that is actually enjoyable. And I think that if they're willing to balance stuff like this, then by all means add it, because anything new is anything that, can become something that is a staple point of World of Warcraft in the future. We wouldn't have PvP talents if it wasn't for Legion. Legion had an awful PvP talent system, but they adapted it. They adapted it into Battle for Azeroth, and then Shadowlands, and now Dragonflight. But we wouldn't have that if they didn't experiment with it. So they need to do these experiments with it. Okay, let's see. I've been playing this game as my main game since Shadowlands dropped. Okay. And I'm constantly in a state of waiting for changes to Unholy DK aside from Cosmetic/Eternal, where it is completely broken. It is really hard to find middle ground ever. There's been a single patch where there isn't 1, 2, 3 specs that are just completely a mile ahead of everyone else. Ret, Demo, Fistweaver were back half of last season. Okay, firstly, half of last season, the Ret changes came through towards the back end of the season. So, not sure what he's talking about there. Demo has always been a power creep type of deal. It's good or not. It's never in the middle. Fistweaver has only ever just been good at the back end of last season, and that was kind of due to the fact that Ret was so good. because the ret really enables a lot of things like fist weaving. It gives them freedom, sank to get out of stuns. It gives them just passive healing as well through their kit. It gives them a lot of utility. So, a lot of this was towards the back end of last season, not halfway through the last season, which is ridiculous. I know this thread is going to instantly devolve in trolling, but I don't understand how an MMORPG can ever be fun if the number one priority isn't making sure that everyone's spec feels viable. They really do try. From what I've seen in Shadowlands, Jesus, they didn't do enough in Shadowlands. What I've seen in Dragonflight is they're really trying to balance it a lot. As well as get new patches out and all of that. I would imagine that DK is on their spectrum. They're looking at Frost DK at the moment, which does need a lot of tuning, because it is just an obliterate bot, essentially. So I'm guessing that they're going to be looking at like other specs soon. But they're doing a lot of tuning on the PTR, and you just never know what's going to happen, essentially. FOTM, not sure what that means. Rerolling doesn't make sense in this genre. Maybe it's because I'm old and played games when your ults could never catch up to your mains gear, but I don't think WoW should be League of Legends where you select your champion every time a hotfix drops. Yeah, playing ults is part of an MMO. I'm sorry, but the fact that this, if you think that you shouldn't have ults in an MMO, and that you want to switch constantly, then I don't understand your idea of an MMO or MMORPG. You have how many classes? You have 12 classes, something like that, who knows at this point. All of them are very unique. They all have a different playstyle, and some people can get bored of their class. Some people can get bored and be like, oh, I feel like re-rolling. Instead of being a melee, like a warrior, I want to be a caster now or something, and vice versa. Like, the whole point of the game is to just explore and play the game and play every single spec that you enjoy. And a lot of people enjoy having ults and being able to gear the ults quite effectively and really try them out at the end game content. Because what you couldn't do in Shadowlands, for PvP wise anyway, was make an ult and just go straight into arenas. You had to really grind that ult in order to play it, and by that time you didn't enjoy the ult anymore because you didn't feel as powerful as you think you should. But that's the sad thing, because you were about to hit that power spike. It's really upsetting that you couldn't do that. But there's so many specs for people to try, and people enjoy ulting. People enjoy having a whole variety and being I don't feel like playing my warrior today, so I'm going to play the evoker, or I'm going to play the warlock, or anything like that. It's an MMO which has loads of different mechanics to the game, and one of them mechanics is playing ults, I'm afraid. This guy, he does sound a bit old with, oh, you've got to stick to your one character. No, I've mained every single class, apart from Demon Hunter. No, I played a lot of Warrior. I think Demon Hunter and Paladin. Paladin, probably. They're the only two classes I haven't really mained. Everything else I kind of mained in an expansion. Monk and Shaman, I played Battle for Azeroth. Boomy was Shadowlands and onward. Mage was Warlords of Draenor. Mr. Pandari was Priest and Warrior, and everything in between. So, they're meant to be there to gear and play them. They shouldn't be really tough to gear. TLDR, remove but borrow power on the level of precog. Borrowed power is not precog. Borrowed power is something that you can add to your caster. It's an enchant. Precog is an enchant, essentially. It's not borrowed power. Borrowed power is artifact weapons. Borrowed power is Azerite power. It's... God, what was the Shadowlands one? Covenant abilities. That's borrowed power. That's stuff that doesn't stick with your class, essentially. Going into the next expansion, when, let's face it, precog probably will. and it will just need to be tweaked every now and again. When you do tuning, hotfix it immediately. When you do tuning, hotfix it immediately on announcement. Oh boohoo, someone at Blizzard has to test it first instead of letting the ranked ladder be a guinea pig. Okay, this one's really bad. So, the whole purpose of PTR, what does it stand for? You can pretty much guess. Public Test Realm. The big word being test. Okay, it's there to see how, like, it's to give her a bigger pool size so that you can find any bugs that you might have missed. Because if it's a small pool size, you might not find every single bug that's in the game. And these bugs can be groundbreaking. Look at like the YouTube channel Rex Troy, for the love of God. He literally one-shots raid bosses that are current tier. And these are due to bugs, clever game mechanics and stuff. But, you know, no one at Blizzard will be able to figure this out. Rex Troy can, and stuff like that. Like, the community that World of Warcraft has is amazing in terms of what we can find and what we can break. And that's what Blizzard want us to find, essentially. Stuff that breaks the game so that they can fix it before it goes live. It is absolutely ludicrous to think that they can test the patch, as well as make the new patch, as well as make the next patch, and like constantly doing balance changes while testing these changes. You know, give it to the like public so that they can test it, they can see. The people who play the classes are like, okay, yeah, this is quite enjoyable, I like this. Okay, no, this is really shit, I don't enjoy this. You know, there's so many things to it, rather than just, oh, only Blizzard should test it. No, that's the complete opposite. It's a public test realm. Let the players test it so that we can break the game, so that they can fix it. That's the whole point. We're here to test the game and play the game. We can break it better than they can. Let's face it. And us breaking the game tells them that they need to fix the game, and where the problems are that they need to fix. They shouldn't have to do the testing, because they've put the they've put the foundation, and we're seeing if we can punch that foundation out, essentially, to see if it's like wobbly or it's just going to crumble on itself, anything like that. So that's where the fixing can come into play from their part, because that's where bug reports come from. Because it's like, oh, okay, this bug report of a paladin just having infinite like wings or something, you know, avenging wrath. And that's a bug because they healed at the same time as being crowd controlled. And then it's like, oh, okay, then this is what we need to do in the coding to make sure that doesn't happen. And you might not get that bug if like it's just done via it. If it's done via Blizzard, you've got 5 people testing. This is just numbers wise. We're taking a stab in the dark. 5 people testing. They might not come across this bug because they play Paladin for about an hour and they didn't come across it as this situation didn't happen. Whereas if you've got 5,000 people, they've played Paladin in a cumulative sort of total of about 500 hours. And, you know, 1 or 2 have come across this bug, and they can distinguish what triggers this bug, essentially. So it makes no sense what this guy's saying in terms of have them test it and not let us be the guinea pigs. I love being the guinea pig for PTR stuff, because you could break the game. You can break the game, and it's not against the rules to do so. It's meant to be broken, the game, like on public test realms. It is. I don't get it. I don't get it from this guy's point of view, I'm afraid. This forum post, I do have to say, it's not great. His whole points are very much null and void. I do have to say, he's going off a percentage based for like rewards when it already is. His facts aren't straight in terms of Ret Demo Fistweaver at the back end of last season. And the fact that he's thinking that they're just not constantly doing balance updates and stuff, when they are. But the thing is, you'll never be able to balance a MMO. It's impossible to balance an MMO. And people really should understand that. But that's what the fun about an MMO is. There might be a class that's a bit stronger. There might be a class that's a bit weaker. But as long as you love playing the class that you play, it's not really a problem. And if you don't love playing the class that you play, that's why alts are there, so that you can gear them and find something to play while you're not enjoying your main, or you might want to switch mains, etc. You know, it is. Jesus Christ. Okay. it's getting to me now. It's starting to grind me down. I'm going to stop it there. I'm not going to lie. I thought that I would get through about 3 posts. But yeah. Yeah, I got through 1. Like, I have 3 of these open. That one alone, I could easily just break down, like, quite easily. And it's quite enjoyable to do so. The others will come in due time. And I think this is something that I'm definitely going to look to do in more episodes and make it like maybe a monthly thing, or like every few weeks, maybe. I don't know, something like that. Because this is really enjoyable. And the forums are an absolute shit show, I do have to say. They are a gold mine. But that is it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening, as always. Do check out the links below. Twitch, YouTube, constant stuff happening over there. Feel free to support the channel via the link down below. It's a donation to help the channel grow and to just show how much you appreciate what happens here on the Pig and Whistle. And I would absolutely love, like, all of the support that you guys give to me. It's absolutely amazing, and thank you for that. But thank you all very much for listening, and go a valor friend. Goodbye all.